right, Chuck. Here's your moment. Here's a chance to reboot your Batman voice from the other episode.
Okay, yeah, because it sucked. So here's my Battinson Batman redo. Ready?
Okay.
I'm Batman.
You even
Right?
had the slight little
Right?
turn of the head. It's like, hey, what's up, girls?
Right?
What's up, Poison Ivy?
What's up,
up, Harvey?
Batman? Did you see
What
Twilight?
up?
I'm
What
Batman.
up? You need one of those chains and glasses. Anyways, welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a movie podcast by three filmmakers that love to talk movies, talk television, maybe sometimes talk video games, talk whatever the hell we want, because this is our podcast and we can do whatever we want. So, hey guys, welcome to this special edition of the Batman review. Because we all just watched it, we're pretty hyped about it. We're ready to talk about it. So, first of all, let's start off with Chuck. What was your number one thing that you loved about this movie, right? Your number one highlight of the movie.
My number one highlight of the Batman was Batman. I love that it was Batman. Like, it was Batman. There wasn't a lot of Bruce Wayne, which I'm not opposed to. I love Bruce Wayne. Obviously, he's Batman, but it was the Batman and it was all Batman. Like, very little Bruce Wayne, which I think we had kind of talked about. Like, I don't think he knows how to be Bruce Wayne yet. And so I think that's why there wasn't a lot of Bruce Wayne. He was the Batman. Mask on, mask off. He was Batman. He was just Batman the whole time. And I just loved it. And aesthetically, the way it looked, I think we had mentioned it before, that it was kind of Seven-ish, David Fincher-ish, and it totally looked like it. Totally, and I loved it. So the darkness, the Batman. So
nice.
Yeah.
Except he did a slightly better voice than you did as the Batman.
I don't know, man.
That's true.
It's like the same.
We'll definitely let our listeners go ahead and tell us what they think in the comments. Anyways, Jose, how about you? What was your number one highlight?
My highlight, if I had to pick one scene that was the highlight, it will probably be the interrogation cell scene with the Riddler. Like, I feel Dano's acting in that scene was A1 sauce on that one. Like, he absolutely killed it. And it was like, so I come from a background in behavioral, ever since I got out of college, all that stuff. So, I've worked with certain demographics who, have had difficulties with mental, illness and difficulties and all of that stuff. So, I've been in moments where I've seen individuals who are struggling just break down because something didn't go right, to the point that they have no words. It's just like sounds coming out. And we saw that in that scene where it was just like he was just yelping in there, and it just felt so natural to what I have seen from experience in the background. And I was like, wow, like, he killed this scene. So that scene was my number one highlight.
Nice, man. And I think for me, the number one highlight was the introduction of the Batman. Oh, first of all, to our listeners, this is a heavy spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. This is Batman.
We're definitely going to be talking about a lot about the movie. So if you haven't watched it yet, watch it first, come back, and then watch this, unless you want it to be ruined. But hey,
we'll have to put that in the title since we already started.
Exactly. Yeah. But anyway, so my number one highlight was the Batman introduction, right? So when they first talked about him, and when they mentioned that the bat signal wasn't just a call to him, it was like a warning for the villains. So even when you see the little petty crime doing it, you see them looking into the shadows, and they played off of the fear of the Batman possibly coming out, and it felt very like a horror movie. So they even the timing, the beats, the music that they used, they made Batman so intimidating to the villains, and that's something we haven't quite seen in a Batman movie, right? Like, that was so unique to me. So even when he was coming out of the shadows, you felt the fear, and Matt Reeves did such a good job of placing us in that position that it really felt like we were that petty crime guy staring in like, you almost didn't want to see the Batman come out and kick her ass. Like, it was awesome. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, no, that was, that you're right on, Dan. Like, that was so awesome. Like, I was all giddy. Like, I was looking at my brother. I was like, dude, right? Like, and it's just like it was so awesome. Like, using like that whole fear and
disconnect off the McDonald's Wi-Fi and get on yours. No, he's frozen.
He is. Well, making that face. That's a funny face to get frozen on.
We're gonna give Dan his editing work for sure.
There you go. Thank you. I hope you guys love a lot of white dissolves because that's all this whole thing's gonna be, a bunch of white dissolves over
So
and over.
I was
Caucasian
on a different.
dissolves.
I was hooked up to my neighbor's internet. Like I guess the Wi-Fi picked up their internet for some reason. I quit.
So
So
basically, yeah, you just went out and just did a crime right now. So hopefully the Batman doesn't come out and kick your
yeah.
ass for stealing somebody else's Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi stealer.
Wi-Fi stealer. Anyways, so if you want to go back to your long-winded answer, let's go back to that one.
Yeah. So Batman's awesome.
Yes, I agree. So Jose, let's come back to you. A guy with good Wi-Fi, as we can see. So what worked about you for the movie?
There was I mean, a lot worked for me, but one of the things you guys have already touched on, it was just the atmosphere that was created by Matt Reeves. You gave the example of the beginning, that tension and that fear that was being created with using the shadows and all of that. And when he comes out, I got this like Western feeling to it. You hear the boots echoing as he's walking. The focus is on the feet, and it's just I was expecting a like and just started playing in the background. But that atmosphere that he created there, that's one of the strengths. Another one was how he incorporated different pieces from different comic book arcs into a solid story, and it didn't feel out of place. And then if I had to pick one more thing, just the shots. There were so many beautiful shots of this, from when he's getting out of the car after the chase scene with the penguin, the bat cat shot with like the sunrise or the sunset, like up top. There was just so many shots like that where I was like, this is a poster. This is a live action poster.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah. The whole horror aspect of it. Like I think I had mentioned earlier before my Wi-Fi caught somebody else's Wi-Fi and I got cut off. But he talks about the Western. Like to me, like it was like Jason or Michael Myers. Like they were like legit scared. And he said like showing his boots, he's coming out of the shadows. Like, and it's funny because you think about all the people that they showed, all the little petty crimes, and they were like, oh, is he in there? Oh, is he in that shadow? Is he in that shadow? And then the other dudes are like, got the short stick there, and he came out for them, and he just vengeance. He came out and got him, and it was like scary. Like people like in the theater were like, oh, like oh, am I watching a horror movie right now? Like it was great. I loved it. I know how you feel, Dan, and we'll talk about it.
We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. I know.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that worked for me, I mean, like what Jose said, there was a lot of stuff that worked for me. But the introduction to the Batmobile, that Batmobile was insane, man. When you saw it first revved up, it felt so Fast and the Furious. Like, man, he would beat Vin Diesel head to head, man. You almost had him. You almost had him.
You almost had me.
You almost had me. Yeah. But no, it felt like that. So the Batmobile was super dope. The whole 7 element that you already touched on, Chuck, I loved it. Even when we saw him with the police officers during the murder investigation, right? And we see him playing full detective. We haven't seen that level of Batman, detective work in a live action yet. So you even had the forensic photographer that's in there taking photos and following him. She didn't even see the blood on the floor. You know what I mean? It's certain things like that were really cool, and they made him a lot smarter. Like it kind of felt like they went more for that. I also really love the fact that he was an amateur, right? This was year 2. So you saw him have a lot of mess ups. You saw him get his butt kicked. You saw him make some mistakes, which was really cool because it kind of humanized him a little bit. And we know in time he's going to get better at this, but there's no way he's going to be the Batman already polished by year 2. And they really played into that.
Yeah. Did his car stall out when it started?
It felt like it did, didn't it?
It did, huh? I loved it. Because I asked my brother, we're watching, I go, did his car stall out? And I think it did, which goes back to what you're saying. Like year 2, he's still in a lot of ways like an amateur, and he's building his car up through the whole movie until it comes out, and then he turns it on. You're like, whoa, and then it stalls out, and it's like, like he's probably thinking that like I got to get my shit together, like, and but it's so grounded. It was awesome, and you know, the whole thing with like Seven, even the notebooks, like the Riddler, like I loved it. Me and
Yeah,
Jose
yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, exactly. But
Can I?
it did feel very humanized, you know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
what made it so cool. It
Mhm.
wasn't like Batman was so, already very much like a superhero. And even though he's a normal guy, this guy seems to block everything and can kick anybody's ass. This one didn't. And like he
Yeah.
needed to use the shadows in order to take full advantage of beating, a bunch of these guys, like the big groups of the bad guys and stuff. Like he needed to take advantage of this stuff. And when he didn't, and he was in broad daylight, you see him fumble, you see him stumble, you see him get punched, and the stuff hurt, man. He had bruises.
Yeah.
What's funny is that so we're seeing how amateur he is in all the rookie mistakes because
Mhm.
he's in his second year. Uh, but with the Nolan trilogy, his entire career was pretty much 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
And then for this Batman, 2 or 3 years, he's still at like stage one. So that's a big difference between the last Batman that we saw. Well, not the last one, the one from the trilogy and the current Batman is the other one was at an accelerated pace and how quickly he picked everything up and became unstoppable Batman. While this one, it's taking longer to get there.
Yeah.
That's true.
He's journaling.
Yeah,
He's journaling.
exactly. Yeah, but even just to talk about that, you have in the Christopher Nolan ones, he went into training, right, with Ra's al Ghul and his whole people. So he had specialized training. In this one, we don't know what type of training Robert Pattinson had, other than Alfred's the one that trained him.
Mm.
It's assumed that Alfred is a good fighter, right? And I know they didn't really touch about his military background in this, even though we know he had that in the comic books, right? But
Right.
in the movie, they didn't necessarily say that. They kind of hinted that he was the bodyguard of Thomas Wayne, right? That's
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
what they hinted at, not necessarily the butler. Again, they didn't really state that, so we don't really know how deep the fighting went. You can tell he was a good fighter, but in fairness, we'll let Christian Bale went through the ringer on that training, man. So it did. So okay, now that we talked about the positives, let's get into some of the negatives, because we know this movie as much as you guys, we all loved it. Some of us loved it more than others. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Jose, did you end up talking to your doctor or no? Because last I heard, after you saw the movie, you had a boner that lasted longer than 4 hours. So.
I needed to get it checked out, make sure there was nothing wrong. He said it was okay. He was still getting over his, so it was normal.
Well, that's one way to get the bat signal, right?
So you know what? How about you go first, Dan?
Me? With what was
Yeah.
wrong with it? Okay.
Yeah.
I had two big complaints about it. Okay. Well, three. The first one is it felt very long, right? It was. And in that second act, it started getting a little winded, where as great as the story was written, and I like that they had to keep bouncing and bouncing to start solving this whole Falcone situation. It almost felt like it was overly written to an extent where, as we were seeing scenes with Batman and Catwoman, they had to keep hopping, so we didn't really get scenes of just letting them breathe and just see the natural chemistry. It felt like they were constantly on the move. So they could have simplified a little bit of the story and just let the characters be the characters. I feel like we could have got a little bit more of that, which is why I think in the interrogation room between the Riddler and Batman, it was a scene that just sat there and just breathed. It let the characters just do their thing without the constant actual physical motion. The second thing that I had was Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. And I know you guys are going to defend it. I totally get it. I understand Matt
You
Reeves
don't get it.
was he was listening to Nirvana during that time. I get it, man. It's a Kurt Cobain Bruce Wayne, but it reads too much in the sense where like the guy was monotone and one note the entire time. I'm glad he was Batman like 80% of the movie, but when he was Bruce Wayne, especially when they're at that funeral scene and the little boy looks over and you see him just staring, it's like, you look exactly like Batman. Like, it's so obvious you're Batman. And even when you're at the funeral and the bomb's going off and everybody's hiding except for him and he's just staring, it's like, you're Batman. Like, I could tell you're Batman. You're not even good at hiding it. So it was just little things like that. I didn't need the suave, Bruce Wayne. I didn't need that version, but he was just so monotone, man. It was so like clearly hot topic emo Bruce Wayne. That's what it felt like. And then my last one, and then I'll give the floor to you guys. My last one is a little bit of Catwoman. I liked her, but the chemistry between her and Batman, it didn't quite gel for me a little bit. It just seemed kind of weird where she had her lover that went missing. As soon as she finds out that she dies, she immediately goes and kisses Batman. And then you see him not really having a connection with anyone. And then all of a sudden he's heartbroken that she's leaving. Like I just didn't see the progress a little bit. So that's it. So now I'll give it to Chuck, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll do one.
didn't
You
work.
attack the other ones, Jose. Okay. So okay, the Bruce Wayne.
Well, first of all, you guys have to talk about what didn't work, and then you can fight me.
No, I want to fight you first.
All right, go ahead. Let's fight.
First of all, Bruce Wayne, how you said, you know, you can tell he's Batman. And that's what I liked. That's what I said earlier. He's Batman. He's Batman with his mask on. He's Batman with his mask off. The dude's depressed. He's got some mental issues. Obviously, his mom was crazy, and they pointed that out. But he doesn't know how to be Bruce Wayne yet. Even when Alfred goes up to him, he's like, "Yo, I got the accountants coming. We got to do this." He's like, "I don't care." He's not Bruce Wayne. He's the Batman. He's always the Batman, and that's why like I was okay with like kind of the one tone, because he's the Batman. That's all he knows how to be. He's depressed. Like he doesn't have a mask, like Peter Parker. He puts on this suit. He's still Peter Parker. He's saving his friends. He's saving his family. Superman. He's Superman. His mask is Clark Kent. Batman, Pattinson Batman, he's just Batman. He doesn't have his Bruce Wayne mask. Like he's just the Batman, and that's it. So that's why I was okay with it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want a rebuttal?
No,
Before you rebuttal though,
yeah,
I do want to add on to that.
Okay.
I do agree with Chuck here. We spoke earlier about we don't know what his training is. You get the sense here, this isn't your world traveled, trained all aspects before returning to Gotham. You get the sense this is a younger Batman, one that's closer to the traumatic event that happened with his parents. He's obsessed and driven with just being vengeance and just being Batman. That is it. There is no, this movie, they touch on it multiple times, is about, part of it is him realizing how much Bruce Wayne is needed, just as much as Batman in there. The Riddler calls him out on it. Alfred talks about it. There's multiple characters that mention it. So just to kind of back up a little bit of what Chuck was saying on that aspect.
Okay, so here's my one little rebuttal that I'll tell you guys.
Make it
as
quick,
Bruce
Dan.
Wayne, or even as Batman, right? He goes and he knocks on the door. I'm here to see Falcone. And he's just sitting there. When he goes to the thing, I'm like, oh, I literally laughed out loud. And like most of the audience did too. Like, oh my God. And then when he's Batman, I'm here to see the Penguin. Like, dude, you're shrouded in darkness this whole time. You're just gonna knock on a damn door and just say, "Let me in, villains. I'm here to see the Penguin." Like, it's just stuff like that. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I understand it's year two, but you did such a good job of hiding in shadows. Why now do you not? Like, you could have just snuck through the back door. Like, really? You couldn't sneak through the back door, but whatever. Anyway, so any more rebuttals to what I said? How about Batman, Catwoman chemistry? You want?
Yeah. Well, I'll use that to transition into the problems I had with the movie. While I did love it, there were some things. One was the length. I agree with you on that. I think if they just cut down the length of all the staring scenes, they probably could have gotten it down to 2.5 hours easily. Just cutting down the staring scenes, maybe from 5 minutes down to like 30 seconds per stare in there. So that was that. I do also agree with the Catwoman thing. I wish, as part of the story, that they had run-ins within the 2 years before, and this wasn't the first time they were encountering each other. So it's like Batman and Catwoman, they have this love story, but it's years of games back and forth before finally he gives in, because she was always kind of trying him. Here it felt too instant, too quickly. So I wish they could have fixed that easily by just putting something in there that they've come across each other within those 2 years. So that I do agree with you on that. The other aspect that I had that was uh, kind of a problem with it. I get it story wise. This is just more a personal thing. Was the fighting itself? I get it. He's not as well trained, but we just came from Batfleck and that type fighting from like BVS. So it just felt like a downgrading at that end. I don't blame the story. It works with the story. I get it. Just me personally, I felt like I downgraded on that aspect.
Okay, fair enough. Chuck, forcing you to find some things that you want to complain about.
Can I complain about Jose right now and about the fighting?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm kidding.
Just want to fight everybody.
um, the length didn't bother me the first time, but it did the second time. The second time I saw it, I was like, ugh, it's long, but the first time I saw it, it was like the more the better, like I was okay with it. It didn't drag for me. It didn't feel long. Like it was fine, but if I can try to think of anything else, not really, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a perfect movie, but I loved it. I didn't really have a lot of complaints other than it was long. So the second time, that was it. That's it.
Okay. So what actor stole the show for you guys, Jose?
So this was stuff. I know my favorite scene was Dano, and he's the one of the easy picks in it. But just because it was a wild card and he ended up overperforming, I'll go with Colin Farrell and the Penguin because he stole a lot of the scenes that he was in with his comedic timing and the way he just like was fully into that character. I'll choose him.
Yeah. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, I would definitely, just to be funny, but I'm also not being funny, being serious. Martinez, the cop. Do you guys remember him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
mustache.
He was pretty good, dude. He had, he sees Batman the first time. He's like, "Yo, you can't come in here.
Yeah.
Who are you?" And then he sees Bruce Wayne later. He's all, "Hey, Bruce Wayne," like. And then he helped. I mean, it didn't solve anything, but he helped Batman kind of figure out the whole, plan of the Riddler. But I actually thought he was pretty good. But yeah, Colin Farrell like just really dove into that character physically, and like he was great, and I guess he's getting his own show, I think, on HBO Max. And just to kind of touch on that too, like I guess they were going to do another spin-off show about the Gotham police, but it's actually kind of morphing into like an Arkham story now. It's not going to be about like the Gotham City Police anymore. So, and it's supposed to be like kind of like a horror TV show too. So we'll see. But
Yeah, they changed it. So I'm actually more excited about it because I think Arkham Asylum is such a cool setting,
and you get villains too,
dude.
so.
You get that's the best part, and you get to rotate them in. You know what I mean? So that's actually one thing I thought about this movie was if they would have split this up into like a series where it was like an 8-episode the Batman show, like on HBO Max, this could have been. They could have added a little more of the character between Batman and Catwoman. We could have let some of those scenes breathe. Then it wouldn't have felt so weighty. It wouldn't have felt so long. But if you would have split it up into like maybe, hour-long episodes, that could have been pretty good, man. They easily could have done this. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 hour, 1 hour, 8 hour, what?
8 hours.
1 hour episodes.
8 hour episodes. So there's like 64 hours. Or
did I say 8 hours? No, I said 8 1 hours.
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, no, but pretty much what you guys said. Paul Dano did such a good job as a Riddler, so I feel like in this movie, the villains definitely stole the movie, and that's another thing as well. Like you said, Jose, Colin Farrell didn't have a ton of scenes, but he chewed up the scenes that he was in, and he did such a good job, which is why I get a little more picky about Robert Pattinson's Batman and Zoe's Catwoman. Is they had well more than enough scenes together, and look what Colin Farrell was able to do with his little time.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. Like I just didn't see Batman falling for her. It just seemed more like they were telling us, if that makes sense, And I understand he's emo and he's withholding the information, but then find a clever way to do it. Like
I mean, it's Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Wouldn't you fall in love with her in like 5 minutes?
Yes, but that 5 minutes, I wouldn't have been stone cold stoic. I would have been like, yeah, let's go. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyways. So for the rest of the series, because they've already kind of hinted at doing a sequel, right? I know Matt Reeves already talked about it. Robert Pattinson talked about it, and they both each had an idea of where the sequel might go to. But what are you guys looking for where the series is going to go? So, Chuck, do you want to go first?
I want to see more of Arkham. I want to see what's going on there, and I know they're doing the show, but I want to see more villains. That's what I want to see. I know Pattinson talked about the Court of Owls. I know some people probably, if you're not like balls deep into like Batman comics, you might not know even who that is, or what that is. And then Matt Reeves kind of touched on, what did he touch on actually? I feel like he said, Jose, do you know? What did Matt Reeves touched on?
I mean, he's been very vague with a lot of his comments. I know he was asked about the Joker, and he was just like, "It doesn't mean that we're gonna go in that route." So he's been very vague overall. He's been mostly focusing on talking about the TV shows that are
Okay, maybe
coming
that's what
off
I'm
the
thinking.
spin-offs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what he's setting up.
Yeah, but I just want to see more villains. And I know like the Joker came out at the end, a small part, and I think I had mentioned to you guys that he had a bigger role in the movie that was cut out where Batman actually went to kind of get like a profile on the Riddler and he went to the Joker. And I guess Matt Reeves cut it out. It just didn't flow or something like that with the story. But like Jose was saying, like he doesn't necessarily think the Joker's just gonna come back either. I think he will, but it's
Yeah.
not really his plan. I mean, how do you not
I was gonna
bring
say,
out the
man,
Joker?
you can't have a Batman trilogy and not have the Joker. Like you need the Joker. It's his main enemy. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
need
like
it.
having Star Wars without Jar Jar Binks. You just can't do that. You know what I mean? Like the whole journey with
I
him and
don't.
becoming like what does he become like a senator or something? And first he's just like in the water. I don't know. It's just great. Um,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
love
This
his.
podcast without Chuck. Oh, wait a second.
Yeah. Hmm. Catch on the
Episode
next
one stuff.
episode. See how that experiment goes. Oh, fan reaction loves it. Hey. So basically, we're gonna ask them Jar Jar Binks with Chuck or no Jar Jar Binks
You know
without
what?
Chuck.
I'm doing the next episode as Jar Jar Binks. What do you think about that, dude? The
Do
best
it.
character in the history of Star Wars. So
Someone's just trying to play the heel. I know it. No, wait, nobody actually thinks that, but okay, sure, fair enough. All right,
I'll
so
find.
yeah. How about you, Jose?
I guess one thing is, I feel one of the biggest things that this movie aimed to accomplish was, again, him realizing how important Bruce Wayne is. So I am looking forward going forward is now that by the end of this, he realized that he is needed, that we start seeing him grow into the Bruce Wayne that we know in there and adopting that more as a mask to help on that end. Um, I also want them to keep this whole mysterious detective style that they put in. This is what makes it stand out from all the other Batmans that we did. So keep that. And then opposite to what you guys said, I do not want to see the Joker. Don't get me wrong. I love the Joker, but honestly, I do not want to see the Joker on the big screen for at least 10, 15 years. And it's just we've gotten it so much, both big screen, so many comic book arcs is over and over again recycled and animated things. It's oversaturated at this point for me personally. There's Batman's main attraction, one of his main attractions is his rogue gallery of villains. Use those rogue gallery of villains. You know, this was Riddler's moment to shine. Let's get someone else in there. Let's get Kite Man. Let's get Kite Man a moment to shine.
Hell
So,
yeah.
We do
you
need a
know,
live action Kite Man.
Oh
yeah. So
man.
that's what I want to see going forward. Those main parts.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And then just to touch on that, I agree with you. I think Joker's been, oversaturated. Even the version that we saw, the little brief thing we saw of him, I mean, he was okay, I guess, but I mean, it was cool because I didn't know he was in it. I purposely stayed away from all spoilers and everything, but the laugh and all that, like it wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't wait to see this
Mm,
guy again. I'm like, okay, this is your version of the Joker. But
mm.
like give me Mr. Freeze, right? Because we haven't seen it since, Arnold Schwarzenegger in that very, very good Batman and Robin movie. Very good. But another one is Clayface, man. Give us Clayface. I love Clayface in the animated series. We haven't seen him at all live action. Like, let's see that.
or even one that they hinted here, and it's already set up for us because is Hush.
Hush. I was
So
just gonna say that. Yeah.
they hinted towards Hush.
Hush.
They also, you had they dig a little bit into the father's background, and you have the Elliot character in there. And for those who don't know and are listening, is Thomas Elliot is the character who ends up being Hush. He's Bruce Wayne's childhood friend. Um, I don't want to reveal too much because we are going to do reading recommendations, but they already planted the seeds where you could possibly go Hush. And Hush is the type of villain that fits this world that Reeves created in this atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And that was the one that I was trying to think of where I asked you. Matt Reeves did touch on Hush. He said that would be like a great character and story to bring into his world of Batman. That's what I was thinking of. So
Yeah, Hush is actually my favorite Batman storyline that I've read. It was Hush. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. So yeah, I'm super excited and geeked to see that one. So how about you guys' final quick ratings? Chuck, you can't use letter grades. You have to use a number. So Jose, what's your score?
I will go with an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5. How about you, Chuck?
A minus.
You does that mean a 9? Are you going 9.0?
It's an
That would be a 9.
it's a 9.1.
9.1 is what you're going with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think my score is about a 7.58. I keep going between the two, right?
7.8.
It's about a 7.5 or an 8 is what I'm going
Not 7.8.
No, not
No,
7.8.
you don't do decimals. You don't do
No.
just 7, just hard
Go
whole
in.
numbers.
Get out. That's it. Go balls deep on the score that you choose.
I don't agree.
That's
I
it.
don't like this. I don't like it.
I love it. I love
I
it.
hate it. I hate it.
All right. How about you, Jose? I know you have some quick recommendations for our audience to listen. If somebody's getting into Batman, right? They watch the movies, they've never really read the comic books. What are some of the key ones that you'd recommend that they should read to kind of help get them into the whole Batman lore that goes well beyond the movies?
Yeah, well, I mean, the recommendation I was going to make is where some of the aspects of this movie was pulled from, and some of the inspiration of it. So one is The Long Halloween from Jeff Loeb. A lot of this was pulled from that one. Dark Victory is another one also by Jeff Loeb. It was pretty much a sequel to Long Halloween. So some stuff was also pulled in there, especially in the Catwoman aspect. Um, Tom King, one of my favorite comic book writers, his run of Batman in there. And that's for anyone that wants to see more of the cat and bat dynamic. That was probably one of the best relationship dynamics in a run done. And then for possible future storylines, I know Chuck mentioned the Court of Owls. That's a possibility, and that's by Scott Snyder. And then I mentioned Hush, and Dan mentioned that's also one of his favorite stories he read. That is also by Jeff Loeb. So those are some recommendations that you might want to get into. First, to see where some of the connections came for this movie, but also possible connections for future movies.
Yeah, and if you're afraid of reading, like most of us are, don't be afraid of the animation. They just came out not just like 6 months ago, maybe. The Long Halloween, actually, part 1 and part 2 animated, so good. Don't be afraid. It's animation, but it's awesome. So check that stuff out too. It's pretty good. So.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse kind of changed the whole perception on animation projects, right? Because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best Spider-Man adaptations we've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, it's better than some of the movies. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think with Batman, I think definitely people are a little more open to that now. But yeah, so
before I forget, did you guys visit the website at the end?
No.
Those black looks are gonna tell me no. After the credits, there's a quick. It's how the Joker had like the green computer screen where when they log in, it pops out at the end and it says goodbye, and then a microsecond the Rata Alada pops up .com. If you go to that website, the first day it actually had riddles for you to solve, and then they provided a video from Thomas Wayne. It provided, and every few hours, it's been loading something. Every few hours, it goes up 1%. This morning, it was at like 40%. It's probably at like 46% right now, but something's going to happen at 100%. And there was a cipher that came out, people solved it, and it says something about it's not over yet, like more to come, something like that. So I would look into that website and see when it gets to 100%, what surprise they have for us.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm excited about
Good
that.
job, Jose. You're a detective. You're Batman.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
Officer
Supposed to know.
Martinez.
No one's
Alright.
supposed to know.
Martinez, who's the real hero of the entire thing. Because without Martinez, Batman never would have solved that, and everybody would have
Martinez
drowned.
is the real hero. That guy
So
is
again, La Raza always does it,
Raza
man.
Martinez. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna say he's Mexican too, just cause. So
I think he is.
he's
Yeah.
Mexican, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, so having said that, this was our bonus episode of the Batman review. It is going to drop Tuesday morning as our regularly scheduled program, which means the one that was going to drop this Tuesday is actually going to drop Thursday morning. So our fans get to get an extra bonus episode this week. So
Nice.
again, I'm Daniel DeSangre. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at king_sangre, SANGRE.
I'm Robert Pattinson. You can find me at Chuck Radwell 12.
Jose Ramos, you can find me at This Is Me Nombre.
Yeah. So once again, this is Not a Strong Start Movie Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Not a Strong Start. Other than that, thanks. Bye, Mom.